But meanwhile, here at home, the Supreme Court is poised to hand down two major decisions on presidential power in the coming days. One is on President Trump's executive order to limit birthright citizenship, an order that would deny automatic citizenship to babies whose parents do not have legal status or citizenship in the United States or are in the country temporarily. And if it goes his way, it could be a major win for Trump's mass deportation agenda. Then there's Trump's attempt to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Back in January, the court seemed skeptical of Trump's attempt to fire Cook, but if the court does side with him, it could give presidents more power to remove officials at independent agencies, emphasis on the independent, including some of the most protected positions in the federal government. Joining us now, Mary McCord, MS Now legal analyst, former Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division, and co-host of the Main Justice podcast. Mary, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with kind of some of the pending Supreme Court decisions that we have. We have, as I said, the Trump's firing of Fed official Lisa Cook, birthright citizenship, temporary protected status for immigrants is still on the table, and mail-in ballots that are received after Election Day. Right now we have kind of two upcoming Supreme Court opinion days. That's June 23rd and June 25th of this week. When you look at this list of things, one thing that I found very interesting is the Supreme Court used to have like one or two big cases that would like shake the grounds of the United States, right? And our foundations, and how we think of ourselves as a country. That is no longer the case. When you zoom out and think about how big these cases have been, how many of these big cases they do, what does that tell us about the Supreme Court and how they see their role in the United States?
Well, I think part of the reason for that, at least with the cases involving the Trump administration, is that we have an administration that has just done so many lawless things. I mean, we have seen more lawsuits against executive action this term than Trump's first term, and more than against any president in any term in history, as far as I'm aware. And so some of these are issues that make their way to the Supreme Court, oftentimes on the emergency docket, because something that happens, in fact, usually it's a lower court enjoining or blocking what the administration is trying to do. And then the administration goes straight up, gets denied a stay at the circuit level, goes straight up to the Supreme Court seeking a stay. So a lot of issues have ended up there. Now, the Supreme Court could reject more of these and say, look, let's let that percolate in the lower courts for a little bit longer. But so far, the Supreme Court seems to be quite willing to take these on. And one of the cases that you highlighted, Eugene, the Cook case, that is there on an emergency motion for a stay of the lower court's decision to enjoin the firing or block the firing of Lisa Cook. The Trump administration took that to the Supreme Court as soon as it happened, basically as soon as it happened. The argument was January 21st. So we are 5 full months out of that argument and still no decision. And this is just on whether to stay or block the lower court's decision.
And there's been reporting that all of this has cost Lisa Cook, Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, more than $1 million in court costs and security fees. Talk more about this delay. The arguments or the going to the Supreme Court was in January. Does that bode well for Lisa Cook?
Well, I think that most of us who paid attention to that argument and to the briefs and to other cases involving Trump firing heads of independent agencies really feel like this is likely to come out against the Trump administration. The Federal Reserve Board is different. It has its historic roots even back to the Bank of England, which was established sort of like as a truly independent private entity. And the Supreme Court, even in acting on an emergency motion, refusing to block the firing of a different head of an independent agency, had a couple of lines in that opinion saying, Federal Reserve Board is different. So I think, I don't know that it's the delay that bodes well for Lisa Cook. I think the odds were stacked against the Trump administration on this particular case from the beginning. The delay could be that there are some dissents that are being written and some other opinions being written.
And this is just a crazy headline to me, and I think an aspect of this that we probably don't talk enough about even on this show, on what Trump's legal attempts, his firing attempt, actually the financial, let alone not that doesn't even cover the emotional turmoil, but the financial cost that this has on people. Trump's bid to fire the Fed's Lisa Cook has cost her more than $1 million in legal security costs. What kind of chilling effect, when we're talking about precedents, does this have on anyone who is pondering a career in public service?
Well, particularly people who have lengthy careers in public service, who have never been out in the private sector, making the kind of money that they might otherwise. It's pretty daunting to think that if you want to challenge something that's been done to you that is wrong, that you believe violates statute, maybe is unconstitutional, the cost of challenging that is very expensive. Now, I am happy to say that a lot of nonprofit organizations, and I actually work at a legal nonprofit, have come in and supported people like Lisa Cook and others in a pro bono capacity, meaning that the services are being provided pro bono. And I believe it's Democracy Defenders Fund and others that have provided the services to Lisa Cook. So it's not all been out of her pocket, but you don't know that going in, right? You don't know whether you're going to have the support of those who are willing to contribute to your legal defense or to your security, which she needs because, of course, her address was made public. And so she has had to deal with threats and intimidation and the kind of things that come when the Trump administration goes after you.
The GoFundMe era now bleeding over into the legal world.
In the time that we have left, I would love for you to us to talk about something that we continue to talk about, which is the DOJ refusing to kill Trump's anti-weaponization fund. When this originally happened, I think you were on the show when we were talking about whether or not Deputy Attorney General, or excuse me, now Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is saying he would not put it in writing to Grace Ming, I think that was, signaled anything. It seems to signal a lot. The Trump administration refused to formally kill its nearly $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund on Friday, right, Fallon Gallagher and Lisa Rubin, declining to submit a court-requested sworn declaration to a federal judge acknowledging the program is dead. We had Liz Oyer on yesterday, and she said her concern is this ends up in a kind of constitutional crisis, right? That the court has demanded something, the executive branch says, no, we're good. And I wonder, as another legal mind that we trust and respect so much as we do with Liz Oyer, how do you view that possibility, and what should viewers at home be? How should they be thinking about the idea that we could be close to a constitutional crisis, in your view?
Well, I mean, this was like the administration sort of like throwing down the gauntlet, saying it would violate separation of powers for us to be told by a district court judge, a separate and equal branch of government, mind you, that we need to file a declaration sworn under oath that we're not going to restart this anti-weaponization fund. From the judge's perspective, she is ruling on an existing case, a litigation that is in front of her, and it's not good enough that Todd Blanche went before Congress and said, oh, we're not going to do that fund, especially where the president has not disavowed that fund. And this happens in so many cases now. You've got DOJ attorneys saying one thing, you have the president saying another thing, and she's saying, I can't dismiss this case as moot, that, like you are asking me to, government, unless you provide me something here in this court, a declaration under oath that this fund will not go forward. And they're saying that violates separation of powers. That is a different view of separation of powers because the judiciary branch is a branch of government. It is an equal branch of government, and it is the judiciary's responsibility to say what the law is. So I think, I don't know why this administration wants to basically declare war on the courts, although Todd Blanche has said something very much like that in public speaking before. But that's where I do think we are, we'll see how the judge responds. The way her order is if you're not going to give me these declarations, then prepared to file a substantive response to the case, I think this week. So, we'll see if they file that.
Mutual Distrust Society. Mary McCord, thank you so much for joining us this morning.